So you want to make your first song, but you don't know how to do it. That's a super common problem, that's why I made a video. Before we get started, I'm O.Williams. I'm a producer and vocalist with 3 songs out, and I am getting into content creation. So I am an intermediate level producer, so I can firsthand remember all of these experiences, and I'm going to be teaching you about how to get into music production, and I'm going to be going through every step of the way. So, starting off with, where do you actually start? Now, this is quite hard because you might be thinking, oh, GarageBand didn't really show me how, and it's quite confusing, but I don't know what else to use. So, to start off, I'm going to recommend BandLab. Now, this contradicts what I said in some of my other videos, but BandLab is great to start on. BandLab is almost oversimplified tool, which is great for new producers and learning how to make songs. Let's get started. You're gonna take a second, pause the video right here, and search up BandLab, make an account, click create, and go new project. Alright, now that you've done that, we're gonna move on. Okay, now that I finally got screen recording to work, we're gonna start off making our song. So if we look up to the top left of our screen to add track, that's what we're going to click on, and we're going to click virtual instruments. So here we have our keyboard. Now you can either, if you know some music, you can play some of these chords, and you play them by clicking on numbers on your trackpad. So we'd play something like A, D, G, and it makes a nice chord. And then you can just move that up the keyboard if you really want. But if you're not if you haven't played music before and you do just want some quick chords, there is this smart chords feature at the bottom here. Now this is quite cool because when you click a key on your keyboard, it makes you a bunch of keys. Now obviously this is quite a simple key chord, but you can make it more and more complex over on this part of your screen. So that's pretty cool. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go up to the top of our screen here, up to this little dock, and we're gonna click record. And you're going to play a key for however long you want, and just move them up and just move them around, and then you're going to have your keys. Now this one's quite a long chord progression, but you can do them shorter or longer, however really you want them. Now I messed up in this one at the end here. So what we're gonna do is, if you messed up as well, you'll use this bit. So you're gonna select all of those, and you're just gonna click your backspace or delete key, and then you can select all of these and give them length. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna copy all of these notes, and then we are going to click quantize, but first we're gonna make sure that this number is accurate to what numbers you've got. So as long as it's 1 out of 4, and you've got long chords, you'll be perfectly fine. But if you've got really quick chords and you've made them quite fast, the bigger the number on the right, the more accurate you would have to be. So if you've got 16ths on 1 out of 16, then it would be quite a small gap. It would be half of each of these sections over here. So you've got that much to get it perfectly on, but one quarter should be fine as long as you've got pretty long notes. And then we're going to click quantize, and now each of these notes will start directly on that point. But that doesn't sound right to our ears. Because of the way that humans play instruments, when we hear perfect instruments, we find them quite strange, because that's not how humans play. Because humans always get things wrong. So what we're going to do is we're going to click this humanize button. Now this just adds a little bit of texture to each of the strums, just making them a little off, which will sound much nicer to your ears. Now, because we have quite lengthy chords, what we're going to do now is add track. Because we have quite lengthy chords, what we're going to do is we are going to click on instrument at the bottom here, back where you were making your chords, and then we're going to go click on Studio Grand. Now if you like how this sounds, you're perfectly fine to leave it like that, but what we can do is we can look through these pianos, and if you click on the play button, it'll show you a little like trial of how they sound. And then if you're not really liking any of those, you can also go down to synths. Now, synths all have a bunch of other styles that they can be. I'm going to click Lo-Fi Mallets just because I've used them before. So now it's a nice lo-fi track. And then what we're going to do is we're going to click on Drum Machine, and we're going to click Empty so that we can learn how to actually make stuff on it. Now we see four beats, and then it goes a different shade. Now we're going to think of these as one. This probably is a weird way of thinking about it, but if you do, it'll make it much easier to begin with. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for our hi-hat, which will be the third down, and we're going to click on every second beat. So as you can see, there's a gap in between the beats that we're clicking. Make sure that we've got all of those placed. Sorry, just leaning around the camera. And then, once we've filled up the whole stretch, we're gonna look down to the bottom. Now on a drum kit, like that one, we have a hi-hat, a kick, a snare, and 3 toms, and a crash. We're not gonna be thinking about much today. We're just gonna be looking at the crash, the snare, and the kick, and the hi-hat. Now, we're gonna go to the bottom, and here is the kick. So we're going to click on the first one of this beat. And now we're going to leave that until the second one of this shade. And we're going to also click there. Now our beat sounds like this. Now we're going to look to this shade, and we're going to click on, we're going to do the exact same as we did before, except for it's going to be the third from the bottom. Yeah. Now our beat will sound like this. Now you can make this faster or slower if you want. A really good way of doing that is instead of having the snare here, you can move the snare to here and remove the bass drum. Now this will make it quite slow. Now if you want to, you can add some triplets. Now it's quite a slow yet kind of fast vibe. Now what we're going to do is we're going to click Add A right here, and now it's going to be added to our track. So if we play this now it stops. Now we don't want that, obviously. So what we're going to do is we're going to look up to this repeat symbol, and we're going to drag that along till the end of our chord progression. Now it's going to sound like this. Now what we can do is we can do the exact same as we did before, and we can look to instrument and we can change the sound of it. So we can look to whatever we want. You can do the same and play through each one. So for this song, I'm going to click bedroom. Now it's a completely different vibe. And now let's listen to that. Now we've got this nice lo-fi vibe. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add track again. Now we're gonna be making our lead. So a song is basically a sandwich. You've got the chords, which is the bread on both sides. Now this makes that lovely, nice sound of the song. And then in there, you've got the patty, which is the drums, as they're another key factor. And then you've got some other things that make it better, but aren't necessarily the main thing. So here we're gonna add another virtual instrument, just like we did before. However, this time we're not going to be turning on smart keys, and we're not going to be playing keys. This time we're going to be playing either single notes or maybe some harmonies, but mostly single notes. And for this one, we're going to make a little melody on top. That melody was probably really bad, but hey, I'm doing this all live. So now we're gonna click into that melody and we're gonna once again quantize. But this time, because each note is so close together, if we click one quarter, now everything is, now once again we're gonna click 1/4 and everything's gonna go back to place. Now, if you've got some faster melodies, what you're gonna do is you're gonna make that number bigger. But for the most part, 1/4 is perfectly fine. Now, we can click humanize again if we want. You don't really have to, it doesn't matter. Now that note sounds off, doesn't it? That's because it's not in the right key. So if you hear something and you go, oh, that doesn't sound right, what you're gonna do is, because we're not learning music theory today, you're just gonna move that up or down until your ears don't go. And then you can also move the rest of the melody around that as well. Now that sounds much better. So now we've got a lead, but the sound isn't right. Well, it could be, once again, if you like that sound, but once again, we're gonna move it around. So once again, back to here, and this time we're gonna go into leads. Now, you're gonna listen through each type, and you can click whichever one you want, really. Now I'm gonna go chip hat because it sounds really funny. not a good sound. Not a good sound. Okay, so now that we've got chords, drums, synths, now we're gonna need some bass. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go straight back to virtual instruments. Now it's kind of tempting to click on bass because of that, but for the sake of this video, we want to do it all naturally, so we're going to be using just the normal bass. Now this one's going to sound a lot lower if it'll play. Now we're going to look, now this one needs to be a bit lower, so we're going to play a quick melody on top. Now this melody should be a bit simpler than the lead, because the bass is more for support. You can have it louder and more complex, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to be going simple. So we'll record that in there as well. And now that we've got that in, it's not going to sound right. Once again, we need to change the sound. Now this time, you're going to click on Instruments again, and we're going to go to Bass. Now I'm going to click Synth Basses, but there are many different types of basses, like you can go electric basses or synth basses. So just look through them and see what you like. So I'm gonna go body rocking bass because it's just a simple one to get. Now we've got bass, lead, chords, and drums. Now while that lead sounds great, what we can do is we can turn that down a bit, just because it is stealing the spotlight, and it should be, but not that much. Now we can hear all the different elements of the song. Now that we've got all of the essentials, now we can move on to making a story out of it. So obviously right now we have a beat, but we don't have a complete story. So for example, what we'll do in this one is, what we're going to do is repeat these first chords, and in the second one we can bring all of these parts in. So now it starts off super simple, and now everything's going to come in. So now you can tinker around with this for a bit, and we'll finish off with something, and then we'll have a bit more of a storyline. I'm not going to do it on here, but to show you what it would kind of be like is you could repeat this for a verse, you could thin it down to just a bass and drums maybe, and then you could bring back the chords and leads for the chorus or whatever. Now that's making quite a good story out of the song. I'm just going to keep it that for the video, but you can repeat this for quite a while. Because what we're going to do is the basic storylining of a song would usually go as follows. So we have the intro, and then we have a verse, and then we usually have either pre-chorus or straight into the chorus, and then we have the chorus. And then we have pre-chorus and then chorus. You can skip pre-chorus if you want to. And then because we've got all that done, now if you would like to, you can add vocals. Now, vocals is not mandatory in any way. It's more of an added bonus if you would like to. So I'm not going to do it on here, but to show you how you would do it is you click voice and audio, and then if you've got some lyrics ready, that's great, but grab a mic or just use your speakers on here. If you are using like your computer microphone, I recommend using headphones, because otherwise you'll get a weird like looping sound, which isn't very nice.
This is my third time recording this bit. I lost all of the footage, but anyway, with vocals, for a good, nice vocal stack, what you can do is you can go 2 tracks of the lead vocal, which is just however you want to make it, and then a track of a high harmony, a track of a low harmony, and a track of a one note. You can find quick tutorials on this almost everywhere, but to do it in a super easy way, to start off with your first melody, just hum it over the song. Just be like, and then you'll have that, and then what you can do is you can say vowels like ma da 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 aba da hey aba, and that sounds really weird, but then you can put lyrics to that because of the vowels, like I was alone and I went on. I don't know, but you see what I mean. And then once you've got all those vocals stacked, that's mostly all you need to do for the song. Now, obviously there are more in-depth things you can do to make your vocals great and all of these pieces great, but for your first song, that's going to be a perfect way to send it off. And yeah, so I really hope you enjoyed this video. Click here for a video on the setups that you can buy once you start getting more experience. So this goes from $1 to $1,000 setups, so it'll show you all the way on how and what you should do to progress your music journey. And then click here to subscribe, because this took a lot of effort. I would really appreciate a sub. And I hope you really enjoyed the video. Leave a comment if you did, and if this helped you, leave a comment as well. I'd love to hear about it. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!